we're gone. Oh, where did you go?
Where'd you go?
Record and disappeared.
Where'd it go?
You hit me.
There we are. We're
Something happened there.
recording.
You hit.
Hey,
We're recording.
hey, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Colin. This is John. Or
Yep. Welcome, John.
That's Colin.
One of us.
One of
Yeah.
us.
We're
Yeah.
here together.
So as you can
Here
tell today, above my head, that's the topic for today. Transactional thinking. We're probably not going to stay on topic because we're not helpful in that way usually.
We do.
We do that. But yeah, today's topic is transactional thinking. Do you want to open that up, Colin?
Transactional thinking. Yes, transactional thinking. I was a little bit confused when you first mentioned it, and I'd heard the terminology, but obviously, with different phrases, different ways of putting things across. So I did a little bit of research, and yeah, of course, I know what transactional thinking is. Now, what I want to say is just to clarify that. See, we are a combination when we think about transactional thinking. And to explain it more, I think if we were to open it up and say that we are a combination of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
Mm-hmm.
Our actions are going to be based on our thoughts and feelings. So when we're talking about transactional thinking, we're looking more about reasons why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason behind our actions?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sort of opens it up a little bit. I don't know how you want to approach this, John, but I mean, that clarifies it somewhat.
Well, I don't know. I'm a big fan of keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Big fan of that. So I like taking complexity and simplifying it down to little manageable chunks. And if I were to apply that methodology to this transactional thinking, what I would say is that it's that carrot and stick, the if this, then that. Right? Like it's like a transaction. Like I give you money, you give me a cheeseburger. Right?
Oh, switch to audio only. What's going on here? Something happened. If this then that. Are we still here? Am I still in?
Yeah, I've still got you.
Me.
We're still recording.
I see me again. Are we back in?
Yeah.
We're still recording, and that's
you
good.
Never left.
Because it was just a bit of a transaction then. More of a transition than a transaction.
That's probably what that was.
More of a transaction. But yeah, it makes sense when we talk about transactional. We're talking about we're expecting some kind of transaction. So we're looking for an exchange, a reward for what it is that we do.
Right. Like if I'm if I do this for you, then you owe me a favor. Right?
Yeah.
If I do this, then I get that. It's transactional thinking.
Yeah, a little bit like in the old days. Well, I think there's time to reintroduce it now. But I mean, one of the old phrases was like an honest day's work for an honest day's pay.
Right.
Which is a similar sort of thing. There's a transaction taking place there.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than the expectation of I'm coming to you to do the work for you and you're going to pay me X amount of money, it's more of a case of I'm going to do something for you with the expectation that you would do something back with me. You would treat me in a like manner.
Right. It's that coming into whatever it is with that expectation of you get something in back. And I see a lot of this when I see people do this. They say, oh well, if I do this, I expect respect in return, right? Or like what you said, go to your. I mean, it's really best done at a job where you go to work, you do a task, and they hand you a paycheck, and it's done. Like it's very transactional. You do this, then you get that. But it doesn't work so well in. Excuse me, it doesn't work so well in things like a romantic relationship, for example, right? If I do the dishes, then you're not mad at me. Right? Well,
yeah.
You should be doing the dishes anyway, just because that's you helping out keeping the house clean. It's not a certain person's job. It's you.
I'm not going to do the dishes. You can do them yourself.
Right.
I'm not doing the dishes, John. No. It's not happening.
It's a transactional thinking rather than just doing it because it should be done, right? So I've got a lot of friends that are very, very religious, right? And they have transactional thinking in this, where they say, if I'm a good person, I'm going to get into heaven. If I do good deeds, then I'm going to get into heaven, right? As opposed to, I think what the teaching actually says, to just genuinely be a good person and don't worry about the reward. Let the good deeds take care of all of that automatically for you. Right? Just do it because that's what you're supposed to do.
See, here we're getting into like shady ground here, supposed to, because I mean, obviously there's moral values at play here, so it's morally expected that you should do it for the sake of it. I mean, a great example would be, I'm not a religious person, but to use the example there of the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan was there doing the deeds because he wanted to do the deeds, not because he was expecting something in return.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. Most people, they only do things because of the expectation to receive something because they've done it.
Yeah. The only see, as I say, I mean, it's a great topic, and in an ideal world, people would do things because it's the right thing to do morally. You know, kindness coming from the heart, being benevolent, you know, helping other people. I mean, it's all there. It's been passed down throughout the years, throughout the ages. But I think it's very hard. You'd have to try really hard to go for a non-transactional thinking or behavior, because primarily we're hardwired to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So naturally, we're going to want to move towards something pleasure. I mean, great example, as I say, the Good Samaritan did things out the kind of his heart. But the question that could be asked here is, was he still looking to gain something? He felt good, because we're all looking for good feelings. We're all looking for that feel good factor. I mean, that's just a given. We're looking for that feel good factor.
Sure.
So if what I'm trying to say here in a very uneloquent way is that somebody who's very selfless, somebody who does things for everybody, they're kind, they do everything for the right reasons, they're still doing it because it makes them feel good. So in essence, they're still doing it for selfish reasons. We're all trying to get that good feeling.
And if that's why you're doing it. If that's the reason. Like, I'll give you a really good example of how about we do a difference, right? Because it's really hard for the human brain to conceptualize and understand the negative, right? It's like, tell you don't think about the elephant. Well, now you're going to think about the elephant, right? It's really hard to think about the negative. So how about let's look at an example of maybe what it should be, right? I'll give you an example of something that I personally do all the time, just because I'm a little bit of a lunatic like this. I'll go to the grocery store and I don't know the cashier. I'm not, like, I might even be out of town. I may never ever again walk into this store ever. But I still come into the grocery store and I come up to the lady at the register, the guy at the register, whatever, and not only do I make small talk with them, I try to tell them little jokes and joke with them to make them laugh and bring them joy.
Yeah.
And
so
say,
they have a good experience
and move on.
Yeah. So they have a good experience.
Right. So it's not really me trying to make myself feel better. I just am in a good mood and I'm sharing my good mood and a joke with someone so that they're enjoying it with me, and then I move on.
Right.
Right. It's not really that I'm trying to feel better. Right.
No. And I would say that on a conscious level, no, you're not trying to feel better. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because we're on the same page. But that if you were in that situation, you'd want somebody to pass the time of day with you, to say something, to smile, to give you that sense of an enjoyable experience. an enjoyable experience at the cashier's checkout, whatever you guys call it over there. We just call it a till.
Yeah, it's just.
But so you're doing it because you know that you'd like to feel good in that situation. You're doing it because you know it's going to make that person feel good. It's going to break their day up.
Maybe, but I mean, I'm not even after that. I'm just being joyful. If they don't engage with it, then it doesn't stop my pace. Right. I'm just being joyful, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a case of spreading a bit of happiness. You walk by, the little old lady that wants to cross the road, help her across the road. You do the right thing. But you've got to have some kind of moral code of conduct. But I think for the most part, we're brought up with a moral code of conduct that we can all adhere to. But yeah, I think it's nice to know that you've made somebody smile at the checkout.
Sure.
You've made somebody smile in the grocery store, wherever.
I
still feel good for that.
I was at a red light, stopped at a red light, rolled my window down, and high-fived the guy in the car beside me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. And you broke my pattern completely there. I was going down this road, and there's a big hole there where I'm trying to go. Right, so we know it's going to make us feel good. That's what I'm trying to say. So we know we're going to feel good. We know that we'd like to feel good in that. Well, I'm not saying we're analyzing this.
Right.
And I think we do it because it makes us feel good. We feel good for it. They feel good for it. It's a win-win.
Sure.
It's a win-win.
Sure.
But I still have to say that as we go through life, it's like we're on that bicycle. We're moving away from pain towards pleasure. Mm-hmm. So even when we're not thinking about it, we're going to do things that are going to enable us to feel better. Now, the point I want to bring to the table here, now I've played the devil's advocate, is if everything we do is based on our memory, on our references and how we want to feel good, then it's useful to do things. If you were just coming from a transactional place in the past and saying, well, I'll do this because then hopefully John will do this.
Right.
I could change my thinking and say, right, I'm going to start trying an experiment. I'm going to say, right, I'll do something for John because John's a good guy. And why shouldn't I do it for him? Not because I want something back. So it's useful to look at transactional thinking from that standpoint and say, so what is the flip side of the coin between transactional and non-transactional thinking or behavior?
Right. Well, so when I was growing up, there was a little saying that was kind of drilled into me. Because when I was very, very young, I had a little bit of hardships and stuff. And part of that developed into not having friends for a period of time. And I struggled with that. And the advice was, if I wanted to have a real friend, I had to first be a real friend. Right. Which, again, it's coming back to transactional thinking. Right. It's saying, hey, if I want this, then I have to do that. Right. It's still a transaction, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that this is the point where the initial seed for this thought process was planted. That it ended up being that I would change kind of how I approach people and change like a dynamic. And then I started to just be good to everybody and then see who reciprocated that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then developed relationships based out of that premises. And later realized that was just being transactional, but there was a seed of goodness there of just genuinely being good to people and not trying to make friends, just continuing to be good to people. Right?
Yeah. Because it feels good.
It does. It feels good, but it also kind of builds your own moral thing. Like, I don't want to screw somebody over because I want to be a good person. Right? Maybe not a nice person, but a good person.
A good person, yes, somebody with, as we've said, moral values. I mean, to go back a little bit briefly, a few moments ago, where I mentioned that phrase that I heard many times in my youth. An honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Mm-hmm. The flip side of that would be going the extra mile,
right?
Because when we're just doing the transactional thing, and we're coming from a perspective of an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Right, there's 5 o'clock. I can finish now.
Right.
I don't need to start till 8 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. because I'm only being paid for this. So we're looking at transactional behavior rather than transactional thinking. We're still on the same page here, but going the extra mile, that ties in with what you're saying about, be kind for kindness sake. I mean,
exactly.
We just quickly here. We mentioned the Good Samaritan being kind out of the kindness of his heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think he must have listened to a song by 10cc. You may be familiar with it. It's called Art for Art's Sake.
Okay.
Okay, so we do the activity, we do the behavior, we do the creativity, we do whatever it is for the sake of doing it, rather than for the sake of some kind of recompense, some kind of exchangeable commodity.
Exactly it. Right. I actually saw a video the other day, and I loved it. It was a scene from a movie. I don't know, movie or show or something. I don't know what it was. But anyway, a guy goes to another guy and he complains that he loaned a guy $20 and the guy just keeps avoiding him and keeps like snaking away and not talking with him, nothing. He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Do I need to thump this guy or what?
Yeah.
And the guy he's talking to says, well, okay, do you like this guy even? He says, no, I hate him. I don't like this guy. He's like, well, so then you're telling me that for $20 you got rid of this guy and got him out of your life forever?
Mm.
And I was like, yes, that's a great way of looking at it, right? Like, just take the expectation away that the guy's going to pay you. Like, hey, you got exactly what you needed out of that transaction. The dude's out your life. He's gone, right? And I thought, well, it's another way of looking at transactional thinking.
Transactional thinking, yeah. There's somewhere. I mean, but the problem is, to sort of tie in with that, if you're not careful and you're just going from selfish reasons, because I think, even though I've said everything we do is to feel good, and even we're being selfless, it's because on a deeper level we're feeling good.
Right.
I think it's about the reasoning behind it. If we do something good for somebody else because it makes us feel good, then the world is a better place. If we do something bad to somebody because it makes us feel good, which is still transactional, then that makes the world a worse place.
Yeah.
See, if we're not careful, I mean, I like your idea about, you go to the checkout, the till, and the cashier, etc., and on a regular basis, you're making their day a little bit better on some level with that experience, some upliftment. Sure. If we're not careful, and you said sometimes they may interact, they may just, okay, he's just one of those guys, he's from wherever. But if we're not careful, it's like the equivalent of, I suppose, I mean, I'm an animal lover. I love dogs. I don't make no bones about it, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But if you stroke a dog and it bites you, you shouldn't let it stop you from stroking another dog.
Right.
This is where I'm trying to go with it, to use that as a metaphor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, 100%. It's I think I like the approach that you're taking on this. I think it comes down to what's your ultimate motivation for doing what you are doing.
Yeah.
Right. If I'll give you here's kind of a normal thought process. A lot of people today are struggling financially. A lot of people struggling financially.
Oh, yeah, you see it.
Lots of people. Oh my God, so many. And I started to see a correlation with this, that people were always trying to go into debt to buy something that they don't actually need, because that thing that they bought, they think makes them look better or whatever to someone else.
Yeah, it's ticking one of those boxes. Yeah.
Yeah, they think, oh, I just got the newest smartphone, so I can brag to my friends how advanced I am with this newest piece of technology, blah, 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 right? Yeah. When their old phone legitimately worked fine. There was no cracks, there was no damage, there was no anything. Phone service was fine, everything worked fine. There was no actual need to update that phone to the most expensive thing and go further into debt and pay more money every month, blah, 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 right? Same with a car. Your car runs fine. You could even, hell, you could ride the bus, right? If there's a bus line to your home and your job in the grocery store, what do you need a car for, right? If you live a block away from the grocery store, walk. It's good for your heart, right?
It is. Every step of the way.
like, you didn't need to go sign up for a new car loan and paying $800, $900, whatever dollars a month.
Yeah.
You didn't need that debt.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. But you got that debt for a reason. There was a transaction for that thinking, right?
Yeah.
You got that debt for that vehicle, whether that vehicle was one that you always wanted. Sure, make yourself happy. That was a transaction. You got it. You made yourself happy. You got the vehicle you wanted. But was the transaction to look better to one of your friends? Like, was the transaction to look more important to your employees at work because you pulled up in the shiny new car?
That's where I
Was
was
the
going.
transaction to look like you're making more money to the people parked in the church parking lot?
That's where I was going with this one. Some people, one of their main driving forces, because to some degree, we'll work with the whole transactional thing. It's human nature to a degree, but it's, as I say, it's how you implement that transactional thinking, whether you want to make the world a better place or whether it's like, I'm all right, Jack.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will strive, as you rightly said, they will pay through the nose extra money because they're looking for the significance. That is what they're looking for. They don't need a new phone, but it gives them that feeling of self-importance. I've got something to talk about. I've got, like you said, your word, something to brag about. Look how significant I am because I now have this, where you didn't need it. Can you still make a phone call? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you still take a picture? Yeah. Well, you stay where you are.
Exactly.
Stay where you were. I'm not going to think any more of you because you've got the latest phone update.
Exactly.
If that floats your boat, so to speak, crack on.
Well, here you. I'll hit you with another one. This happens all the time, everywhere around the world, in every culture I've ever seen. This happens all the time. You meet somebody new, you're getting to know them, you're doing the pleasantries, and they ask you, "What do you do for a living?" Right? Again, we're coming back to transactional thinking. You know what this is?
Yeah.
This question, however the answer is for this question is the transaction. It's them saying, what is your value proposition in my eyes?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I'm a rocket
how
science.
valuable are you? Like,
yeah, I'm a rocket science. What do you mean you're only a bin man?
right. What do you mean
Only a bin man?
Garbage collector, right?
Yeah.
Or you go and clean up sewage tanks. What do you
Yeah.
mean you only do that? So then, like, your ranking with them plummets down, depending on, goes up or down. Oh, you're a lawyer. Fantastic. Oh, you're a bus driver. Oh, so sorry, right? It's a
There are
transaction.
people out there. Yeah, there are people out there like that. Yeah.
They're 100%. It's in every culture, everywhere I've ever seen.
I value the refuse collector the same as I value the cashier, the same as I value a doctor, the same as I value a solicitor. We each specialize, we each do what we're doing, and we each hold a place in society. So it's back to why or how you're using this transactional thinking.
That's right.
Use it to buoy somebody up. Use it for your benefit. I mean, I covered a few moments ago about everything we do is to feel good.
Right.
So if you're going to feel good by making somebody else feel good.
Yeah.
Hell, why not?
It's free to you. What does that hurt you?
Yeah, yeah. 100%.
It's free endorphins. Do it. It's like, go for a jog. It's free endorphins. Like,
yeah. I'd like to swim with the dolphins.
There you go.
That. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I went off on a tangent then.
Well, there's an old saying that's really good. It's there's two ways to build the biggest building. You can either tear everybody else's buildings down, so your building's taller than everybody else's, or you could just keep building your building up and make it the biggest building.
One brick at a time.
That's right.
Onwards and upwards.
Yeah. So the real question is, whatever your motivation is, whatever you're deciding, whatever action you're taking with anybody, why are you doing it? What's the reasoning behind it? Is it to impress the Smiths? Like, is it to make your boss be impressed with you so that you can get that promotion? Blah, 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 blah. Why do you really need the promotion? Is it a passion for you to do this job, or are you chasing a paycheck so that you can better afford the car that you should have never bought and the bigger house that you have no business living in? Right? Would you be happier with more time with your family and your kids in a smaller place while you ride the bus to work, so you don't have to pay for $2,000 a month in extra bills, and you don't have to work all those overtime hours to bring that extra $2,000 in. Would you be happier to spend that extra time with your family rather than paying for the debt that you shouldn't have had in the first place?
Exactly. So if you're going to use the transaction, make it to make the world a better place rather than to just make yourself feel good.
Yeah, 100%.
It's what you got to do. It's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
But I mean, this isn't just about money. It's not about debts. Transaction is easy to kind of encapsulate this into the framework of money, but this works with how you deal with yourself and how you interact with other people, right? It's not just about money. It's, if I'm going to do this for you, then you owe me that. Instead of just, can I do this for you? Will you let me do this for you? Right? No, I don't want anything. No. Matter of fact, if you want to give me something, how about you give me a little tic tac? And I don't need that. I just want to do this for you. Right?
Yep.
If it makes you feel better to give me something, give me give me $1. I'm just going to do this thing for you. Right?
Yep. Tic tac, dollar, it's all the same. Just
whatever meaningless little thing.
Because some people have a hard time accepting charity.
Yes.
Some people have such a hard time accepting charity. So if they want to give you a little something just so that they can feel better about it, why not? You're still going through the same motions. You're still adhering to the same rules. You're still making the world a better place.
And here's
you're allowing this person to feel better.
Whatever they've given you, you can then give that to another person too.
If it was a Tic Tac, I wouldn't pass it on because it had been stuck in my hand, and you wouldn't give somebody else a Tic Tac they've been carrying around. Seriously.
Well, I mean, I couldn't give them a half-eaten Tic Tac. I mean, you got to take your commissions, right?
Sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. That's what they say. I was going somewhere. Where was I going? You did it again. You just pull the rug from under me.
Wonderful.
Yeah, if you're going to use transactional behavior, use it to make the world a better place, not a worse place there.
But I've seen it in marriages all the time because I used to do a little bit of marriage counseling.
Got it. Yeah.
I've seen it in marriages a lot. A lot of men will be familiar with this, where the wife will say, or the girlfriend, whatever, will say, she'll say something to the extent of, well, I'm mad at him, so sex is off the table, right? Transactional thinking, or I'm mad at him, so he's sleeping on the sofa, or whatever, right? Or he didn't watch the kids enough this month, so I'm not going to do this. Whatever it is, right? It's transactional thinking, and if you're doing a business transaction, it's not really a relationship. You're just in a business transaction.
Yeah, and if you're in that relationship, it's withholding the commodity that's being transacted.
Right.
Whether it be sex, whether it be kind words, because some people they can have an argument, etc., and they won't speak. They just ignore people. I mean, there's various ways of, because let's be fair, what we're talking about here is some kind of punishment.
Yes.
You didn't fulfill your transaction. You didn't do what was expected. Because the trouble is, I mean, this is a point I wanted to raise earlier on when we're talking about transactions. I mean, because of the way our mind works, we generalize a lot of the time, which is where these transactions come from. We generalize so often. In fact, for the most part, if we didn't generalize, we wouldn't know how to open the door. We'd have to relearn everything.
Every step you have to learn every detail of absolutely everything.
Every step of the way. Right. So if we can assume or take that as read that we generalize everything. Mm-hmm. By generalizing, we then, on a linguistic level, if you will, we're talking about making assumptions. Mm-hmm. We have to assume that if I do this, this person will do this. So we're talking about assumptions. Then we go into the realms of prediction.
Yeah.
I know that if I do this, then John will do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only when, to bring this back in for a landing, with the lady you mentioned there taking sex off the table, or the wardrobe, wherever she's taking it off, it could be anywhere. But she takes it off the menu. Takes it off the menu. Then that prediction went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So sometimes you've got to reevaluate the situation and notice that even though any relationship to a lesser or greater extent, is a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's
good to do
more,
charity work.
sometimes you got to do the charity work, and sometimes you've got to reevaluate the situation in the moment, which is what I want the takeaway to be from this. Reevaluate the situation in the moment. Step away from that prediction, step away from that expectation.
Yes.
And do the deed anyway. Do the good deed anyway. Let's put good on the end of that, but do the good deed anyway.
Well, because if you want it to be a successful relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a professional one, a friend, a colleague, whatever it is, a familiar relationship, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if you want it to be a healthy relationship, then you need to take business off the table.
Yeah.
Okay. And by business, I mean transactional thinking. Okay. If I do this, then I'm expecting you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Prediction.
If you want success, then you will just do this, because in a relationship, it's your job. If you are in that relationship with that person, it is your job to freely give to that person.
Yeah, you got to give to get.
Without expecting anything back.
Yeah, you got to give to get, but I think it's a natural thing. You're not giving to get.
No, you're just
when
giving.
When you give what you send out there, it will come back to you.
Right, and if it does not come back to you, then that's a failed relationship, and that is not your fault, because you have given. The other person did not give. That is not your fault. That is their failure in the relationship.
It is, because any relationship, let's call it what it is, a collaboration, whether it's business, whether it's on a personal level, whether it's on a friendship level, it's always going to be a collaboration. And I think it was Napoleon Hill, Napoleon Hill's my go-to Bible, but Napoleon Hill, he said, if it's beneficial for people to bend the truth a little bit, they will. But if it's beneficial to go the extra mile, then you're coming from a better place.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, if you keep giving, any relationship is based on motive and motivation. Mm-hmm. This person will, if you're kind-hearted and you give your time, you give whatever to this person, they will reciprocate just by the law of reciprocation. Like attracts like, etc. I don't want to go down the airy-fairy world, but
that's a whole nother video.
It works out, but that's just how it seems to work. Even on a ordinary level there, whatever you send out, you always gain from the experience, whether it's because you feel good for doing that, or whether you keep sending it out, it's going to come back from somewhere. Always does. Never fails.
Yeah, you're going to gain. I love how you put that. You're going to gain from it in one way or another. Even if that gain is going to teach you who or what type of who, not really a specific person who, but what type of who generally will not reciprocate what you freely give. But the thing is it doesn't, it doesn't matter who it is. When you give, you shouldn't expect anything in return. It's like when you give money to a homeless person, right?
Yeah.
Like at this point, it's like the money is no longer your concern. You just gave to someone else, and it's done.
Yes, with the best of
intentions. It's done. It's a gift.
With the best intentions, yeah.
Right? It's a gift. That's all it is. It should be done when you're done giving. And it's the same with any other. I know I'm oversimplifying this here, but it's the same with any relationship, especially in a marriage, in a romantic relationship, in a friendship, something that's more personal.
Oh, yeah.
A person should just freely give, right? And when you're freely giving, people can't really take advantage of you because you don't really have an expectation for how they should be. And then they're not meeting that expectation, whatever, right? If they don't freely give back to you, that's not a relationship. No. That's just you gifting positivity and good things to people.
You was in my head there because you said gifting, and I was going to say it's all about the giving of the gift,
right?
Not what's going to come back. That's what I wanted
100%.
And as we've said, for a greater or lesser extent, everything we do is going to be transactional just because of like the brain, the human nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about the intention behind it. That's the key thing.
That's
And
it.
this is where people start moving forward when they shift their intention.
Yes.
They start to grow. You get that degree of personal growth in there. You get to experience a better quality of life because you have better interactions.
Mm-hmm.
People treat you kinder just because you exude that kindness, that air of kindness, that air of giving.
Yeah.
So even though John and myself were talking about transactional thinking, and that it is a huge part of our daily life,
Right.
just start to examine what the intention is behind the giving.
Right.
That's the way forward.
Yeah, it's going to keep happening no matter what. The point is to just pay attention to the why and what of it that's unique for you, right? It's different for every person. There's some regular themes, and that's what I think NLP likes to talk about, and neuro-linguistic programming, the NLP, and motivational speakers. There are consistencies and there's themes across the
There's
human behavior
principles, aren't there?
spectrum.
They're principles. Yeah.
Yeah, there's principles. There's things. But of course, when you look beyond the generalizings of these things, there things get highly detailed for each person, and I think that that's where the magic is being able to reflect on that and say, okay, well, how is this going to apply uniquely to me in my situation, in my daily things, with my spouse, with my kids, with whatever.
Yeah.
How is this going to transition to that? And I love that we're doing this topic at this time of year because we're coming into the Western culture's Christmas season, right?
Yeah.
And it's the season of giving. Everyone's calling it this and that.
Goodwill to all men.
Yeah,
yes.
This is, I think, a really good thing coming into that season to be thinking about and have on your mind. And then when you're coming into the New Year's resolutions, maybe some of this can play into some of those resolutions that you actually might do this next year.
Yes. Yes. The ones that fall by the wayside by January the 2nd. But yes, we start off with a good intention, but I mean, that's the way forward. But every time you fall off the horse, get back on.
Yeah.
Get back on.
Yeah.
Simple as.
Realize it's not really it's not a real horse. It's like a Pinocchio horse. It's made of wood, and you've been carrying the stick with a little straw horse's head stuck to the end of the stick, and you're just riding. You might fall off, but it's not running away from you. It's right there. Just pick it up and keep going.
It's going nowhere. Just because you get to January the 2nd doesn't mean you got to stop. There's always January the 3rd, January the 4th, January the 5th. Never give up, but come from
and then January 5th the next year.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about giving, taking part in that transaction. As John said, every personality is different. I heard something the other day. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I want to bring it in.
No,
15% of the population cannot reproduce. That's just how it is. 15%. That's just because of the. Now you think that you're the result of one of so many million sperm swimming, okay, and you made it. Now you think the chances of 15% of the population can't reproduce. You came from your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, going back. The chance of you being here, John, sat with me today,
staggering.
Crazy.
It's so minuscule.
Yeah, so make the most of it. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, it seemed a bit on a tangent, but what I'm trying to say is make the most of it. When you're going to be involved in this transactional thinking, when you're interacting with people, when you're collaborating with people, when you're just chatting to somebody in the street, come from that place of good intention rather than personal gain. Then you can't go wrong.
Somebody mentioned that the other day about the parents and the grandparents and the chances of being born and stuff. But they added to it a thought that's kind of an interesting thought here. And it can tie along with the transactional thinking a little bit here, that can you imagine all of the life that was lived so that you could live your life? All of the hardships, the successes, all the heartbreak and all the joy, all
the decisions,
the indecisions, the decisions, the mistakes, the successes.
Yeah.
All of these things for each person's life, for your parents, for your grandparents, for their parents, for so on and so forth, for however many generations back,
Yeah.
how much life was lived before you could live yours.
Yeah.
And we're stuck on worrying about who likes what our hairstyle is, and who likes what car we're driving, and what house,
what phone we've got, how we've upgraded the phone and the car, etc.
Yeah.
So if we all do our little piece, and come from a place of good intention, then surely that's going to propagate that sense of intention globally. You know, if not in your local environment, each time you treat somebody good, next time they see you, if you're passing somebody in the street, they're going to treat the next person good because they're in a good place.
Yeah.
And it expands exponentially.
Yeah. It's like passing a virus of goodness and happiness.
Yes, I like that. That's a goodness virus. Yeah.
That's right.
Great concept. Great concept.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I think it's a really good place to stop this video, and we'll get on track with the next topic and next video whenever our lunacy kind of brings about another good topic to talk about. Exactly. We're going to try to do this every week. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, and leave like comments, whatever in the bottom if you want to see things change, improved. If you want old Colin to get a better haircut, we're just going to tell you to, take off the Canadian way.
Exactly. And if you want John to start having like implants, fill in the little gaps, then just drop a comment. Just drop a comment. Just drop a comment.
Horns right here. Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is all about the intention and making our co-creators and collaborators feel better about themselves. Have a good time. Have a good night.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Bye.